Okay, well, performance of the weekend by an absolute country mile has to go to Bakhram Murtazaliev. He absolutely destroys Tszyu in three one-sided rounds. If you go on to PBC's YouTube channel, they will show you I was going to say extended highlights, but really the only highlights of this fight were really the knockdowns. It will show you that Tszyu was dropped several times. He was dropped 4 times. He was down 3 times in round number 2, and he was down obviously once in round number 3. The referee said, next time you go down, it's over. Realistically, I mean, I wouldn't have complained if he'd stopped it after the first knockdown in round number 3, but he let him carry on. I wanted to get a gauge, was this fight completely one-sided from the first round on, or was it mistakes? But there was definitely mistakes there by Tszyu. I mean, that was apparent. But I wanted to get a gauge as to kind of where he was at in round number 1. And they didn't show any highlights of that. So I ended up finding a footage of the fight. It's not the greatest, or it wasn't the greatest anyway, because PBC are very strict about that kind of stuff. They've always cut that stuff off the website instantly, as in like YouTube and stuff like that, full like images and all that of the fight. They tend to get rid of that quick, so you can really only see it from a particularly bad angle, but you still can see what happened in the first round. And the commentary was unbelievably, this was PBC commentary, it was unbelievably pro Tszyu that whole first round. And what I saw was Tszyu, he was giving up 3 inches in reach. And he definitely didn't appear to be the bigger puncher of the two in there. He certainly didn't. I mean, this guy here, Murtazaliev, he's 31 years old, 6 foot tall, which is quite tall for a 154 pounder. He has a 73% knockout ratio, and he's been pro for a decade. Now, he stopped the likes of Jack Kulki. Jack Kulki that's actually the only time Kulki's ever been stopped in his career, actually, funny enough. That takes some doing, because Jack Kulki is a fighter based in Germany, and he's normally durable. He's not the best, but he's normally quite durable. So it does indicate to me that this guy has a little bit of power there. If you look at his resume, it's not the deepest resume in the world, to say the least. Like I said, been pro a decade. And normally when you're fighting at world title level, or you get to world title level, and you've been pro that long, you tend to hear little bits of things about the guy. So I didn't hear much about him, and I think many people didn't, but he's definitely shown himself. Apparently, according to BoxRec here, Igis Klimas is his manager, who is obviously the manager of Alexander Usyk as well, or he works certainly very closely with Alexander Usyk along with Alex Krasuk. I wonder, is Krasuk in on this team as well? But either way, this guy was bossing the first round against Tszyu. Tszyu was taking a lot of shots from early on. The commentary was funny in round number 1, because they were saying, when it was apparent Tszyu was losing the round, he wasn't even able to really land on this guy. He was just missing. He was taking shots in retaliation. The PBC commentators were saying, well, it's obvious Tszyu is now starting to walk this guy down. You're like, no. And Murtazaliev, he was clearly the bigger puncher of the two. I mean, you could see that in the first round. Tszyu was even there was times you could see the expression on his face where it was kind of like, okay, I'm in here with a big puncher. The commentary were actually saying, no matter what Murtazaliev hits him with, Tszyu knows he's the bigger puncher. It's like, mate, seriously, this is embarrassing how one-sided the commentary was after the first round. First round ends, Tszyu loses that round, goes out in the second round, and he takes a left hook. So Tszyu was exchanging. He threw a right hand. He'd had his left, instead of having his glove up here, he had it down there. Straight away, walked onto a left hook, was down heavy. He was then dropped again 2 more times in the round, and once again they were from left hooks. Now, some people might say that the final knockdown in round number 2, that, it was kind of around the side of the head, and, the referee, he did call it a knockdown, quite rightly so, it was a knockdown. I think that the punishment he had taken prior to going down, because bear in mind, if you'd seen the final knockdown in round number 2, he was out on his feet. So I think even a jab probably at that point would have turned him over. The referee took a good hard look at Tszyu, and Tszyu, one of the things he was doing in there was he wasn't making adjustments, and when he was getting knocked down, and they were heavy knockdowns, it was down, up. You do have a count of 8. You have an 8 count. Stay down. Let your legs just recover, see how they are, and then get back up. If you go down and you get straight back up, your legs are going to be just like jelly. And it's not going to do anything. It's not going to help you. It's not going to benefit you. And the commentators even said Tszyu was getting up way too quick. The final knockdown in round number 2, the referee let it carry on because, for the simple reason, the bell literally like that. So yeah, that was fine. Inexplicably then, between rounds, which is the time when you would imagine the doctor would come in, he comes in immediately after the round ends rather than doing it during the minute's rest. He does it after. They call Tszyu back to the corner. The doctor checks him out and then lets him proceed to carry on. He did appear that extra bit of time did appear to help him, because he did appear more back to himself, is probably the best way I would say it, in round number 3. But ultimately, it mattered little. He got dropped again, and the referee, I think it's Charlie Young or something his name was saying, you could hear him saying, he goes, next time I'm stopping it. A big right hand came in for Murtazaliev, and I think the referee should have stopped it then and there, because it was a big looping overhand right, landed bang on Tszyu's chin. He was completely gone at that point. That would have been the right time to just wave it, call it off, it done. He didn't. Tszyu got backed up to the ropes then, and to be fair, a lot of the shots weren't landing. They weren't, but you could see the right was on the wall. Towel came in from Tszyu, right decision, 100%. The referee, in my opinion, you probably should have stopped it a little bit earlier. I mean, you probably should have stopped it after the first knockdown around number 3. That would have been enough. Yeah, I mean, back-to-back losses for Tszyu. You know, in the Fundora fight, you could say that the cut, you know, the big cut that he had in his head, that really did hamper him, and I would agree, it definitely did. This one now, I mean, the punishment he took in this fight, he took a Hail Mary beating in there. So I don't know how he's going to come back from this one. He is the younger guy, but I mean, that's going to dent his confidence, going to dent his chin. He took, again, a hell of a lot of punches in there. Hell of a beating in only just 3 rounds. In, less than 10 minutes, he took a 12-round pasting. You know what I mean? Like, that's how much abuse and punishment he took in there. So, yeah, Tszyu, that's going to take some coming back from. In terms of this guy here, Bakhram Murtazaliev, well, as I said, 31 years old, fights out of Oxnard, California, originally from Grozny in Russia, which I believe is in Chechnya. So, and there's been a few fighters who've came out with there. I think actually isn't Baturbiev. I don't think is he necessarily from Grozny, but he's around that region of Russia. So they are just chucking out good fighter after good fighter. And this is an interesting one because, again, you know, you look at this guy's resume, and it's not the deepest resume in the world. He's been pro for well over 10 years, and there's nothing on the resume that jumps out at you. And again, from my own ignorance, you know, he was not a fighter who I'd heard a particularly great deal about. He's fought on a couple of Katy Duva shows, main events. So, you know, she doesn't do many shows at all these days. She used to work with HBO. I think she did shows with Arturo Gatti back in the day. She was obviously with Kovalev. Sergey Kovalev was promoted by her, but she's not done a lot over the last few years. Who else did she have? She had a few others back in the day. I think Steve Cunningham was one of her fighters as well, if I'm not mistaken. But she's not done much. But this is now a world champion back in her stable, and this is the type of performance that will get people talking. That really will. Even his amateur record, I look at there, and there's not a great deal to look at in terms of the amateur. Again, forgive my ignorance, I can't say that I've heard much of this fighter at all. Really haven't. That this was obviously a case of a guy with a title, maybe the Team Zoo, BBC thought, you know, easy touch, pro 10 years, heard nothing of him. And, you know, that's normally the case where if someone's pro for an extended period of time and they get to anyway decent level, but you haven't heard of them, more often than not it tends to be they're not that good. More often than not anyway. But this guy, I mean, you know, like Manny Pacquiao all those years ago against, I think it was Ledwaba, I think his name was. Just there you go, onto the world scene. There you go, big performance, and we know all about that. So I think he's done very well with this performance. Tszyu, I mean, there was a lot of flaws there, an awful lot, and he needs to address them ASAP. Can he do it? Let's wait and see. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Like I said, I forgot completely this fight was happening this weekend. I barely talked about it. I don't even think I did talk about it too much because it just kind of went over my head a little bit. But fun fight to watch. I'd recommend you go and have a look at it. What do you think? Let me know your thoughts. Hope you enjoyed it, people. Smash the like button if you could. Hit subscribe, of course, if you haven't already.